Welcome, Wan Ying, Gausa, bonjour tout le monde. A pleasant good morning to all. Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence AI Forum, part of our 17th annual Saint Lucia Taiwan Partnership Trade Show 2024. Please allow me to acknowledge the presence of Minister for Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperatives, and Consumer Affairs, the Honorable Emma Hippolyte. Ambassador of the Republic of China, Taiwan to Saint Lucia, His Excellency Ambassador Peter Chen. Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperatives, and Consumer Affairs, Permanent Secretary Sophia Henry. Permanent Secretary, Department of Economic Development and Youth Economy, Permanent Secretary Mr. Paul Hille. Chief Executive Officer, Export Saint Lucia, Ms. Sunita Daniel. Chairman, Youth Economy Agency, Mr. Thomas Leos. And Director, National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, Mrs. Lisa Flora Montut. Other esteemed dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, both in person and joining on our live broadcast, I bid you a fair good welcome. I am Stanza Deligny, an economist within the Ministry of Finance, Economic Development and Youth Economy, and it is my esteemed honor to serve as your Master of Ceremonies for this morning's AI Forum. Now, before we begin this exciting exploration, I would first like to call on Mr. Jonathan Ale from the Ministry of Commerce, Manufacturing, Development, Business Development, Cooperatives, and Consumer Affairs to bless today's proceedings. For without the guidance of our Heavenly Father, there is no true wisdom, strength, or success in our endeavors. Let us invite His presence among us as we embark on this journey. Mr. Ale, you may lead us in prayer.
Okay, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of being here today. We thank you for preserving our lives, and we thank you for this forum today. We ask, Lord, as we put every activity that would be taking place within this forum, that it would be guided and directed by you. We pray that the information disseminating out of this forum would be edifying to everyone here today, that we would find ways to improve our businesses, our processes, and to be more productive persons. Take charge of all things as we put it into your hands. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Ale. It is my great privilege to welcome to the podium our esteemed Ambassador of the Republic of China, Taiwan to Saint Lucia, His Excellency Ambassador Peter Chen. Ambassador.
Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Minister for Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperatives, and Consumer Affairs, and Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Sophia Henry. Mr. Paul Hille, Permanent Secretary of the Department of Economic Development and the Youth Economy. Distinguished panelists, participants, friends of media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Bonjour tout le monde. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all to the AI Forum, held as part of the 17th Saint Lucia Taiwan Partnership Trade Show. We are thrilled to co-host this forum with the Ministry of Commerce, continuing our ongoing collaboration to promote innovation and growth between Saint Lucia and Taiwan. As many of you know, Taiwan plays a pivotal role in the global AI chip market, producing over 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors, which power cutting-edge AI applications and research. Taiwan also accounts for about 2/3 of AI server production worldwide. Since last year, this trade show has focused on digital technology and innovation, with many local exhibitors showcasing products related to AI. In October 2024, the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council successfully held an AI summit in collaboration with the Department of Economic Development and Taiwan ICDF, highlighting the growing importance of artificial intelligence in Saint Lucia. Today, we are honored to have Mr. Chen Li, founder and CEO of Spark Amplify, as our speaker. Spark Amplify is a data-driven company specializing in B2B marketing technology. And Mr. Li will be discussing the crucial topic of boosting e-commerce sales with social selling and with solution panelists, Dr. Thomas Samuel, Mr. Jim Joseph, and Ms. Nisa Pierre. I would also like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank Honorable Minister Emma Hippolyte and also Mr. Paul Hilaire, Permanent Secretary of the Department of Economic Development and the Youth Economy, and all your staffs for their unwavering support for this event. I also appreciate the efforts of our moderators and panelists who will guide the discussions to follow. I have no doubt that today's section will be both insightful and inspiring, providing practical strategies to help businesses in Saint Lucia and Taiwan enhance their e-commerce performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Chen. We do appreciate you, and we are always pleased when you do come to our events, especially with this collaboration. It really does mean a lot to the people of Saint Lucia. Now, I invite to the podium our esteemed Minister for Commerce, Honorable Emma Hippolyte. Let us all together give a warm welcome to our beloved Minister.
I don't know all this stuff there. What's that? That's it. Good. Ambassador Peter Chen, Permanent Secretary Ms. Sophia Alfie Henry, Permanent Secretary Mr. Hilaire, our panelists here with us. Special welcome to you, Mr. Lee, our business people here, and our listeners and viewers online. Good morning to our esteemed ladies and gentlemen. And I think in Taiwanese, it's a little hello, say ni hao. Ni hao. So the AI is working. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to speak today on a topic that holds transformative potential for Saint Lucia generally and our economy in particular. The integration of AI into small island developing states like Saint Lucia is indeed a critical factor towards our long-term development perspective and our sustained ability to compete globally. AI has permeated industries worldwide, transforming processes, enhancing efficiencies, and introducing new opportunities. AI is not only reshaping business globally, but also stands to impact us significantly, as it truly epitomizes what is in fact the fourth industrial revolution. For Saint Lucia, our limitations, including remoteness, small population, and inability to establish economies of scale, means that we have typically trailed behind the developed world in terms of technology. We are classified as adopters of technology rather than leaders. But this classification of technology adopters is not necessarily a negative, and can well be turned to our advantage based on the strategies that we implement and the rate at which we integrate these emerging technologies. We must therefore be ready and willing to embrace new technologies, holding firm to that entrepreneurial spirit that defines Saint Lucia and Saint Lucians. We must be unafraid of change, organic in our thinking, and flexible to adapt the technologies to meet our needs. There is so much for us to gain, including enhanced efficiency and productivity, as AI can streamline routine business tasks, automate repetitive activities, and enable both management and employees to focus on high-value tasks. This is particularly true for our micro and small businesses, as managers are often left so busy working in the business that they have little time left to work on the business in advancing its strategic development. This enhanced efficiency and productivity would be especially beneficial in sectors such as tourism, agriculture, healthcare, and education, where AI applications can simplify supply chains, personalize services, and manage data effectively and efficiently. AI can also prove to be a game changer for Saint Lucia in offering improved access to data-driven insights. As technology experts so rightly put it, data is the new oil. Remarking as to how valuable data collection is in the technologically driven world, the efficient collection and analysis of data will help in better decision making at all levels and can ultimately lead to improved performance and increased profits, while also safely navigating risk and potential pitfalls. Data-based decision-making has long been a shortcoming of St. Lucian businesses, and it is time that we address this. While AI also provides additional advantages, including the potential for research and development, creating new job opportunities and new industries, as well as enhancing customer experience, it would be remiss of me not to touch on some of the potential pitfalls. This include data privacy and security concerns, potential job displacements, as well as high investments and infrastructural costs that can sometimes impede its introduction, particularly among our small businesses. These are all areas which we must navigate with caution, and which as a government we must consider so that we can intervene with the right policies and interventions. However, it has always been my firm belief that every problem brings with it its own set of opportunities, including the opportunity for skills development and skills transfer in combating cybercrimes and job displacement, the opportunity to work collaboratively with the private sector in building robust infrastructure that meets our needs now and in the future. And finally, an opportunity to drive investment that will allow our private sector to take advantage of emerging technologies. It is for this reason the Ministry of Commerce is undertaking the process of reviewing its fiscal incentives legislation, its fiscal incentives legislation, with a view to incentivize the integration of technology and automation within the private sector. You will hear more on this aspect later as our work progresses and as we continue to engage you in the consultative process. Notwithstanding, I am of the firm view, ladies and gentlemen, that the greatest risk we face is the risk of not embracing AI. That is the greatest risk. The cost of inaction is clear. It would be reduced competitiveness as our counterparts across the world leave us behind. A missed opportunity in terms of innovation and productivity gains, an increased vulnerability as an attitude to stick solely with traditional industries does not augur well for building resilience or for expansion of our economy. I say to you, therefore, let us move forward together, accelerating action in AI and other digital technologies within the business community, accelerating our ambition of a productive and globally competitive Saint Lucia, and accelerating investment in critical areas which will lead to social and economic gains that will benefit this and future generations. With these viewers, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your participation here today, and I also extend sincere thanks to Ambassador Chen and the people of the Republic of China-Taiwan for their continued support and collaboration. Let us show our appreciation to them. I also want to say special thanks again to Mr. Lee and for the panelists for agreeing to participate in our session this morning. Let us all work together and step forward in St. Lucia's journey towards digitization. May God guide us on this journey. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. You are quite right. AI will be the foundation on which tomorrow's commerce is built, noted Satya Nadella, the Chief Executive Officer of Microsoft. So everyone is really on the same page. We have to embrace this new technology because we cannot stop it. And also, we can also benefit from it as well. Our theme for this morning's session, from personalization to productivity, harnessing AI's potential for global success, is well placed as we explore the transformative linkages between AI, commerce, and economic growth. AI's ability to personalize customer experiences, optimize operations, and drive innovation presents remarkable opportunities for local businesses to enhance productivity and compete on a global scale. By understanding these connections, we can leverage AI to unlock new avenues for success, empowering local businesses to meet the evolving needs of the modern market and to build a more prosperous future. Given these facts, and without further ado, audience, please assist me in welcoming our feature presenter, Mr. Chia-yen Lee, to the podium. Mr. Lee? My apologies. Well, you have seen Mr. Chia-yen Lee. We appreciate you. Mr. Lee is a founder and chief scientist at Spark Amplify, the world's first end-to-end software-as-a-service public relations platform. Its AI-powered public relations currently analyzes over 5 million press placements from 80,000 plus media influencers to help over 2,500 brands from 25 companies in getting the global brand media coverage they deserve. He founded the company in 2017 in California, United States of America, and has a data-driven product team in Taipei, Taiwan. Prior to Spark Amplify, Mr. Lee has over 15 years of corporate marketing and data analytics experience in the US of A, as well as Asia. Mr. Lee has past successful data projects, including global future companies such as Safeway and Southern California Edition. Leveraging his extensive academic knowledge from the University of California, Berkeley, and Mr. Peter Drucker, is it Drucker? School of Management, along with senior corporate professional experiences from leading companies around the world. Lee aims to introduce a practical framework to building a thriving technology startup in Taiwan that strives to achieve unimaginable global success. Please again give a warm welcome to Mr. Chia-yen Lee.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Honorable Emma Hippolyte and Ambassador Chen, as well as all of our esteemed guests. Thank you for attending today's AI forum, and I'm greatly honored to be presenting in front of all of you today. This is actually my first time here in Saint Lucia. Of course, last month I was able to get familiarized online first. So, and it's really good that, to see there's such a great trend in terms of wanting to learn more about AI, especially here in Saint Lucia. Today, the title of my talk is, as Stanza mentioned earlier, from personalization to productivity and harnessing AI potential for global success. In addition, we are going to explore some of the topics that Ms. Emma Hippolyte mentioned earlier as well, looking at possibly policies in terms of security, in terms of privacy. Those are some of the topics that we will be also looking at today. And as mentioned earlier, which was a very comprehensive introduction, my name is Chen, last name Lee, and I'm currently the founder and chief scientist at Spark Amplify. Before I begin, I just want to, obviously there was a lot of introduction already. I just want to also mention that I'm also, recently, is back to school as well. I'm currently also doing a PhD specializing in human-centered AI design, which I truly are passionate about because, as we all know, the technology itself is such at a rapidly advancing pace. However, at the same time, it is important that we also understand its implications as well as connectedness to humanity as well. And so, and that leads to, as you know, today, obviously, I have the opportunity to share in front of all of you, which I have been doing across the world, whether it be in the States, in San Francisco, in Los Angeles, as well as out in Asia, Japan, Singapore, and even out in Africa, such as Nigeria and Eswatini. And so it's a great honor today to be here, first time, not only to Saint Lucia, but also in the Caribbean. Thank you. So before we begin, I mean, we supposedly, I think I'm supposed to have 50 minutes, but I think I'm gonna try to keep it around 40 so we don't get too delayed. But then again, you know, we'll see what happens, right? Before we begin, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys in terms of, you know, in the era of AI, an introduction to generative AI, as well as what we're very familiar with, such as ChatGPT. When we hear about the word AI or artificial intelligence, we usually think of, you know, we have this image in the back of our mind. This we have to thank Hollywood, right? You know, the movie making machine out in Hollywood obviously over the years have portrayed machines or even AI as something of this sort, right? A machine or a robot possibly taking over the world and so forth. However, as we all know, AI or even, you know, machines, they're all a part of us around, you know, in our everyday lives, whether it be the cars that we drive or whether it be the things that we purchase online, such as on Amazon, or even some of the services, whether it be, you know, having a dinner out in the restaurants and so forth. These are all currently all, you know, integrated, very integrated with the technology as we know AI. So it's not that scary to some extent. It is all, you know, a intricate part of our lives today. In fact, I'm not sure if you guys have watched the conference or, you know, the online event a couple weeks ago by Tesla or Elon Musk, but during the We Robot event, Elon Musk introduced 3 up-and-coming products. First, obviously, is a robo-taxi. Okay, essentially, not only does it drive you to work, but once it drops you off, it is actually earning you money because it can actually pick up other people and you know, take them to where they need to be. Furthermore, from a mass transportation perspective, RoboVan, I believe it's, you know, it can actually hold about 20 people. And furthermore, it is currently already also in planning and as well as production. And then the ultimate, in terms of AI, which is our own everyday Tesla bot. A self-serving or, you know, a robot that can not only help you with your everyday tasks, but also at the same time keep you company. So this was sort of the future image that Elon Musk portrayed during his We Robot event. And, you know, believe it or not, this is not just a movie. It is actually, based on his predictions, it will actually become true by 2025 or 26. So it's only a couple years from now, supposedly. And based on his track records, it might actually come true. And nevertheless, we need to sort of bring it back to our everyday lives. AI, it is every day a part of us. Whether it be when you are using your cell phone, writing text, providing you suggestions, or when we're on, let's say, Google Map, telling us directions on where to go, or even our smartphone voice-assisted Siri, and also our beloved Netflix, you know, where we get a lot of our entertainment. These are all aspects of AI that's already interwoven in our lives today. And so, ready or not, AI is here. From my many sharing experiences, I often get asked, when will AI replace us? That's the very common question that we all often get. But I always say, in terms of AI replacing humans, there's still some ways to go, because to some extent, our human brain, our mind is actually quite complex. However, there is a real possibility that those that know how to use AI tools will replace those that don't. Okay, that's a certain fact. And so I think it is important, and furthermore, I think it's a good first step for all of you today to be sitting in this type of atmosphere, this type of event, to learn about the future of AI. And furthermore, in today's discussion, I will be sharing with all of you some of the best practices and case studies that currently already is in execution. And so in terms of generative AI use, it is actually quite encompassing. Whether it be visual content from image creation, such as creating your next image for your social media post, or maybe video editing. These are all visualizations that can be done by generative AI as we speak today. Or audio generation in terms of composing music, in terms of text-to-speech. Those are all in the realm of what AI can accomplish. Also, text generation, such as ChatGPT creating, writing not only simple text, but also even in the likes of novels and longer formats. And even code generation, in terms of in the past where only engineers are able to create codes for programming. Now, furthermore, with the help of ChatGPT, even junior level or even non-programmers can actually proceed with this task. But however, there's more. If you don't see what I just mentioned, there's actually over 7,000 tools, based on my last count, and probably there's more. It is actually increasing every day. There are other tools that can actually facilitate the use of generative AI to help you achieve whatever you need to achieve, whether it be for work, whether it be from a personal perspective. And if you don't seem to find that, there are directories like this where you can just type in, there's an AI for that. You can actually look for tools that are relevant to what you're looking for, and then furthermore, to be able to see feedback of past users, whether, their use experience and so forth. So whatever it may be, there seems to be a solution or a tool for you. Now, as we all know it, AI is almost synonymous to ChatGPT, right? I believe the introduction of ChatGPT has, to some extent, made everyday people like you and me more aware of what AI can do and its potentials. And so when we look at ChatGPT, which was created by OpenAI, you see that, as I was just mentioning to Jim, it is ever so improving on a, I don't want to say on a yearly basis, but more of on a monthly or even daily basis. So whether it be, the GPT-4o that we all currently use, if you do use ChatGPT, which was introduced earlier this year in May, or even the newest OpenAI 01, which was introduced, I believe, 2 months ago, which allows it to have critical thinking, reasoning abilities, things of that nature, right? So it is, to some extent, on a trajectory, and furthermore, almost impressing us on a daily basis. And I also want to take this opportunity to share a quote by Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, which he mentioned last year at the OpenAI Development Day that they held. He mentioned that AI is going to be a technological and societal revolution. And when we give people better tools, we can change the world. And furthermore, AI will be about individual empowerment, and so that we will be able to do more, create more, and I love this part. Each and one of us, we will have superpowers on demand. Almost like we're all superwoman and supermen. And when we need to, we can quickly run to that telephone booth, change, save the world. And then if we need to get back to our normal lives, we take that off and we continue on our everyday lives. This, to some extent, is what AI provides us. When we need it, we can activate it, and furthermore, subscribe to it, and then to be able to create like we never created before. And so, as we know, in terms of its effects, it's across industries. And as you can see on this slide, it is, to some extent, a entire industrial transformation, whether it be in healthcare, whether it be in finance, banking, e-commerce, manufacturing, and so forth, and even in education. Last month, when I was attending online the AI Summit, I did hear that there was a lot of questions and interest around how AI can affect education as well. And I just want to take this opportunity to also share with all of our guests today what AI can do in education. It is actually something that Spark Amplified itself were actually quite vested in as well. We recently promoted this service called ReadSphere, which offers reading experience reimagined. And what does that mean? Is that in the past, when we are reading a content, the content is fixed. We can't change that content, so it really depends on my reading level and how I can comprehend whatever I'm trying to read, whether it be Huckleberry Finn or maybe the classics of Romeo and Juliet. But that really depends on your competency as a reader itself. However, with generative AI, we turn the table. We're able to generate content based on the original work, but however, at the same time, based on your level of reading, whether it be if you're a third grader or a fifth grader, we try to adjust the content based on your reading level. Furthermore, utilizing generative AI to also help you visualize a story by creating the images that you would like to picture while you're reading the text. So this whole process, not only does it make it personalized, it also makes it engaging, and then furthermore, out of the box in terms of real-time analytics. So this is some of the stuff that what AI can do in terms of affecting some of the industries that I mentioned before, including education as well. Okay, so that was a quick introduction of ChatGPT, generative AI, and let's look at how it is actually affecting our everyday work. And when we talk about work, it's really across, once again, business functions. In any organization, we have many business functions that keeps it running on a daily basis, whether it be accounting, whether it be from a manufacturing perspective, quality management, whether it be operations, or even design and marketing. These are all aspects or functions that are necessary for any organizations to not only survive, but thrive in this new era. And so let's examine how in the era of AI, how can AI help these departments, which may be one of the departments that you guys are currently in. So when we look at accounting, it's mainly about, numbers, mainly about finance, how to keep track of your cash flows and things of that nature. And in accounting, you see a lot of these type of accounting statements, right? That are usually prepared, whether it be in-house or externally. Now with ChatGPT, you can not only prepare these type of statements, but it can also help you analyze, just like a certified CPA would do. So in this situation, if you were to upload, let's say, a PDF of your recent income statement, you would be able to actually ask ChatGPT and says, hey, can you give me an analysis of, a financial analysis based on the income statement that I provided. Not only would it be able to provide you with year-and-year analysis, it would also give you recommendations and summaries at the end, almost just like a certified consultant CPA would do. Okay, so this is something that is already very possible, and it can be incorporated into your daily accounting operations. Now let's look at quality. So as manufacturers, quality is the #1 priority. How to maintain your quality at a certain standard, it is imperative. And so when we are in manufacturing, we're always analyzing what are some of the quality potential failure issues. And so in this example, what you see is usually in this situation, you would have these type of different failure modes or causes of quality issues, such as a chart like this, a Pareto chart. And it could be like a JPG file or any sort of a picture file. In this situation, how can ChatGPT help you? You would be able to upload a chart like this, and first of all, ask it to recognize, does it recognize the image? Which, amazingly, it does. It can actually visualize that chart just as a human would do. Furthermore, you can actually have it analyze that chart and provide you with a quality analysis report. So in this situation, in the analysis report, not only would it give you an introduction, it would also, based on the issues or the failure modes that it was able to identify, it would also give you corrective actions that you can take, and also furthermore a conclusion of possibly how to remedy this problem. So this is something that, once again, in, let's say, if you are in the capacity of, let's say, quality management, ChatGPT can already do things of that sort. Now, what if manufacturing? When manufacturing, as we all know, when we're on the manufacturing floor, there's always sensors that goes with, you know, the machines that currently are, let's say, whether it be assembling or are manufacturing. So these sensors are collecting tons and tons of various data. And as earlier mentioned, data is the new oil. So this, to some extent, becomes very valuable. Now, in the past, when we have to analyze this, you would need to almost have some sort of expertise in statistical analysis or possibly even major in that type of degree. Now, with ChatGPT, not only would we, so in this case, we upload that file, which was in an Excel file. We upload it, and then furthermore, we ask ChatGPT, can you recognize that file, which it can recognize accurately. It tells you that it, you know, one of the column is date, time, and then for each of the sensors. And then furthermore, in the past, when we had to create charts, you would use Excel, right? And that would take you some time. Now, once you upload that data, you can actually just have ChatGPT create that chart for you. Furthermore, like I said before, statistical analysis-wise, in the past, you would probably need to have some sort of expertise in that. Now, with ChatGPT, you can actually have it perform statistical analysis, whether it be providing, you know, the typical mean calculations, the standard deviations, the 25 percentile, all that type of stuff would be quickly calculated for you. More importantly, to add additional value, we would need to identify what are some of the correlations between these potential data that we are collecting from different sensors, which could be the reason why, possibly, you know, the reason for a specific failure. And so in this situation, ChatGPT can actually, based on the data that you provided, not only provide an accurate correlation analysis, it would even be able to draw in correlation metrics like that instantly. So to some extent, it is extending our knowledge of what AI can do. And in fact, some of the stuff that I've just mentioned today are essentially what are some of the stuff that we do on a daily basis. And so we talked about quality, we talked about manufacturing. With any business, operation is what keeps a business going. And with any business operations, we're always managing multiple projects. Imagine a situation where, let's say, whether it be an event planning or a product launch, all encompasses various aspects of tasks that needs to be juggled. And in this situation, you would have something like this where you would schedule out a project. Now, this year is quite interesting because as we speak, just a couple of days ago, Taipei, Taiwan actually had a typhoon. And there was one day of holiday vacation because of typhoon. And in fact, this year we had many. And in this situation, in Taiwan, it's actually a day off. Now, from a perspective of a business, it has an impact on your project. Now, in this situation, if we can anticipate that there will be a typhoon coming to Taiwan and there will be a delay of 3 days, how would that affect our project? So in the past, that process was a manual process, and furthermore, it's based on your experience of how you would be able to adjust this project schedule. Now with ChatGPT, as long as you provide your current schedule, it would be able to give you optimization schedules based on the typhoon that's coming, based on the 3-day delay. And then furthermore, you can ask it to not only provide one new plan, so not only do you have backup plan A, you also have B. Okay, so this is something that, once again, in the past, manually, we would have to do this based on our expertise, based on our experience. Now with ChatGPT and with the information that's available, it would be able to provide you with options so you can quickly react and then furthermore plan for the upcoming typhoon. Design. With any business, especially those that have its own brands, design is about storytelling. You need to be able to tell your story visually, so to be able to get people's interest and potentially even buy from you. In this situation, what I'm showing is that in the traditional design process, it is very manual. And then furthermore, it is actually very personalized too. So your own designer, he or she has his or her own style of designing things. Now, and which is very unique for every single individual. Now, what if I tell you that AI can actually learn that style? As long as you provide AI with the amount of data, so you can train it. So in this situation, I am using Claude Monet, as we all know, a famous artist. This Monet obviously has his or her own unique style of illustration. Now in this situation, what I've done is I've trained AI to draw like Claude Monet based on Claude Monet's past work. And then I applied it to different scenarios or even different locations that Claude Monet has never drawn before, and then it is actually able to reproduce that style with accuracy. So this is, once again, what we call style transfer. Now in this situation, if we were to apply this in a business sense, imagine the potential, whereas in the past for product designs, we would actually have individuals, designers draw out every single product that we are interested in promoting. In this situation, you could just provide it with its, your past styles as well as, the style and the content, and it would be able to generate these new potential products for you without humans actually having to intervene. Okay, so this actually helps shorten the product development process without you having to actually go through this process by yourself. And then lastly, marketing. As we all know, in marketing, it's always about content. It's always about creating, telling your brand stories. And what's important about that is, obviously, when we need to communicate with media friends, it's through press releases. Press releases are very structured content, and in the past, unless you have a decent amount of experience with it, you may not be able to write a good press release. Now, with ChatGPT, as long as you're able to manage the prompt design and telling it for what specific event, for what product, and at what venue, it can actually generate a very good press release. In fact, I would say it's not 100%, but it is at least, I would say, 75 to 80%. And then, of course, our value is, not only, to add additional information, but furthermore, to make sure that the content is correct. So I hope that, the quick 5 minutes, 10-minute session gave you all a glimpse of what AI can do, and furthermore, what ChatGPT can do for you. And so, and last but not least, I'm going to spend the last remaining, I would say maybe 5 to 10 minutes to discuss its potentials, right? I think nowadays, there's always a lot of positive news about AI, but I think, especially at this time, I think it's also important to understand its constraints and limitations. And then furthermore, mainly on its biases and privacy. In terms of bias, there are many reasons why AI actually exhibits bias, but I'm just going to use one example. This example is the gender bias. In this example, if you see closely, the prompt that I give to ChatGPT is actually exactly the same. I asked ChatGPT to describe this world-leading professor. The only thing I changed in this prompt was the name itself. The first one was Arthur. The second one is Emma. So it's only the difference in terms of, the gender of the name. The prompt itself exactly the same. And let's look at what ChatGPT returns. For Arthur, it uses keywords like, he is a renowned, groundbreaking, influential, cited 10,000 times. Those are some of the things that ChatGPT gave when I had it, describe Arthur. But when I asked ChatGPT to describe Emma, which is also a world-leading professor, ChatGPT would use words which usually associates with females, passionate, helping people, things of that nature. So in that situation, as you can see, it's exactly the same prompt. It doesn't change. The only thing it changes is actually the gender of the name. And you can see how different the response is. And the reason why is this. When we look at the source in terms of what ChatGPT is trained on, the data itself is massive, and the parameters is unthinkable. But when we look at the data itself, you see that 60% of the data that it is trained on is essentially, the World Wide Web. So that, to some extent, we can't really, change, right? Now, if we look at the second data source, which is the web text, which is quite significant as well, which is about 22%, and the remaining are different selections of books that it trains, such as Library of Congress and so forth. So we're going to focus on this web text and see what this 22% is actually, what are the sources of this type of data. Web text is essentially data from, let's say, chat discussion forums. And these forums include, for example, Reddit. Right? Reddit is a very popular chat discussion forum out in the States. And when you look at the distribution of Reddit users, you see that male users obviously is the majority, over 60%, versus female is 36%. So if the data is trained, if 22% of data is trained on data like this, then obviously some of the responses that it gives is going to be skewed more towards male versus female. Furthermore, when we look at the distribution in terms of regional distribution, about 50% or even more is from the United States. And then the remaining ones are, let's say, UK, 7%, so forth, and then 3%, 4%. So furthermore, when you use ChatGPT, the information that you're getting is going to be heavily more biased towards the United States, because that's a lot of the data source is where is it coming. And then in fact, when we look at the distribution of the age, Reddit users 16 to 29 years old stands about close to 40%. So it's going to be heavily skewed towards the young people. So as you can see, when we are looking at biases, one of the main reasons obviously is looking at the data source, the data that is being trained on. And when we look at the data itself, as you can see, there's a reason why you see biases such as gender biases and so forth. And so that's why in order to eliminate biases, it is important that we understand, for example, prompt engineering, how to possibly even remove some of these biases during the process. Now, when we look at privacy, this is also a critical issue nowadays. In fact, in the news, when you look at in the news, on an everyday basis, in fact, a lot of the big companies, Samsung, Microsoft actually is one of the biggest investors in OpenAI. Even Microsoft briefly restricted its employees accessing OpenAI, which quite ironic, right? And so nowadays, a lot of the technology companies, and then furthermore, a lot of the companies in general, are actually restricting access to ChatGPT or OpenAI within their internal network because there are some privacy issues that might be a potential risk. And so what is at risk? Possibly the data collection process, possibly the data security, possibly how long they keep your data, and then furthermore, are they getting your consent, okay, before they collect your data? And then furthermore, in terms of, in the technology world, there's always issues of third-party collaboration where possibly your data is passed to a third-party vendor. But in terms of ChatGPT, since that's what our discussion today, there are things you can still do, okay? So I hope if you don't learn anything today, this is one thing that you should probably think about, right? When you do go home and think about how you can do this. So on ChatGPT, you can actually do some configurations in your settings. In the data control, you can tell it not to train, not to use your data to train. Okay, and then so what that means is if you're providing your information on ChatGPT, it won't train that data, and so that possibly when other people are possibly asking that same question, the information that you feed it will not be, hopefully, part of the responses. And then furthermore, that's something that you can do, just from the configuration settings, but this is actually not, public information, but if you actually go to this link, you can actually have more access to your ChatGPT in terms of configuration. You can actually download the data that they have of you, okay, so you can see what information that they have. You can actually, right here, you can actually tell it not to train your data as well. And then furthermore, if you just don't want to, have any of this type of concern, you can actually just delete your account manually here, and then remove your personal data once and for all. Okay, so these are all ways that you can probably, which I would recommend to consider if you are going to not only use it on a personal basis, but if you are going to use it for, let's say, government or organization, whatever, these are some of the things that we should probably take into consideration. And of course, I think with a lot of these technology tools, I think it's also about, if you are using the free version, then, since they're not charging you any money, then it only makes sense that they have access to your data, right? But if you do go to the paid version, for example, if you switch to like the Teams, it does say here that, the data is excluded from training by default, okay? So these are some of the options that you can think about. And then furthermore, as a last resort, I would just say these are common sense, especially when you're on the internet. They're just 5 things that you would never share on the internet anyway, so don't share it with ChatGPT as well. Whether it be sensitive company or organization data, whether it be, let's say, creative works or, related intellectual IPs, financial information, or maybe even personal data, and then furthermore, of course, your usernames and passwords. So that's a quick quick intro or a quick description of privacy and bias, and then so that leads to the conclusion of my presentation today. In the era of AI, I think we must acknowledge, in order for businesses or even governments to succeed, it is to handle AI transformation, not only carefully, diligently, but also being able to manage the outside information. But more importantly, it really involves these three elements. In order for a successful AI transformation, we got to understand that there will be processes that needs to be re-engineered and changed. It cannot be your old existing traditional process. Furthermore, you have to be able to implement the right tools. And lastly, the people in the organization itself, they need to have the mindset. So when you have these three elements in place, these are the key to a successful AI transformation. And sometimes it starts with training. So things of that, this is something that we do as well out in Taiwan with a lot of businesses. We really go through the process of helping them understand how can they utilize AI for text, for image, for video, for audio, and for social. These are some of the things that as organizations, as governments, we can also think about utilizing this to upskill our team members. And so currently right now, we actually work with a lot of the top universities in Taiwan that is helping to not only leverage the new knowledge, but also preparing the, hopefully, one day, graduates into the workforce to be more prepared for this process. So not only would they know the tools, they understand the processes, and they also have the mindset. And furthermore, not only universities, but sometimes we also need to think about AI to some extent, at the end of the day, will have its most impact, not in our generation, but future generations. Because think about it, as the picture that Elon Musk showed, in the future, our kids are not only going to be working alongside with his or her peers, but he or she will also need to understand and be able to work with robots as well. And so it is important that we allow them to actually begin that communication process and furthermore explore AI, not only for its technology use, but also activate its, his or her imagination. And so, in conclusion, Taiwan is leading this way. And furthermore, through the business success of across various industries, whether it be the traditional industries such as automotive, machinery, and also some of the advanced ones, like what Ambassador Chen was saying, especially leading the way with, semiconductor, things of that nature. So the key takeaway for my presentation today is this. We have to think about, in the future of work, how can we leverage AI to not only work smart, not work hard, but work smart? That is one thing. And secondly, with the right tools, we can really think about how we can do more and create more, which is the key aspect of humanity, because that's our creative side. Critical thinking, creativity, those are all things that as of this time, now, we still have an upper advantage over AI, over machines. And like I mentioned before, key to AI transformation, it is really in the people and the process as well as the tools that you choose. And however, no matter how perfect it sounds, we have to always understand its constraints and limitations. And lastly, Taiwan is your partner in AI success, not only whether it be providing, chips, but also in terms of services and solutions. Those are all things that I think in the future, I'd love to be able to collaborate with Saint Lucia here as well. And lastly, I always like to share this, AI is a trend that possibly, just like the trains itself, you cannot be stopped. So don't try to stop the train, learn to ride the train. And so for future success. And if you are interested in my slides today, please make sure to maybe give some feedback on this questionnaire, and I'll make sure to send it out to you guys as well. And then furthermore, for potential other case studies, whether it be in Taiwan or elsewhere. And this is my information, and that's my LinkedIn. If you're interested, stay in touch. We can always, yeah, of course. It's a Google form, yep. Thank you. You got it? Okay, and then that's my contact information, email, and then my LinkedIn. And hope to see you all again in Saint Lucia very soon, or maybe in Taiwan as well. Thank you. So I think we're Q&A. Do we still have time for Q&A? Okay, we'll just maybe 2 questions maybe. Okay, yep, on the back. Yeah, yeah. Do you want to? Okay. Yeah, you want to use the mic? Yeah.
Yeah, so quick question I had in relation to what you mentioned about AI being trained mainly on first world countries.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, does it make sense to build a model for the Caribbean?
Yeah.
And if it does make sense, does Taiwan offer funding for such a venture?
Yeah, I have to admit, I mean, so I think, yeah, you're right. I think, you know, for countries, I think it is important. Like, so for example, even Taiwan, we're also training our own data as well, right? Because as you know, I mean, from a population perspective, obviously, you know, Taiwan is not the biggest, but we want to make sure and we maintain the integrity and also, you know, the traditional Taiwan and our culture and everything. So I think it is important to be able to train your own data as well to some extent. But to answer your question, should Caribbeans? Yeah, I think definitely. I think that's definitely something that can be considered. But however, we need to probably evaluate, you know, the source of data and things of that nature. But I think it is important to maintain that type of consistency and integrity to ensure that, you know, when you're using, let's say, services like, I don't know, ChatGPT, even though I don't know how much of effect you're going to have, but I think it's important because just on daily use of ChatGPT through prompt engineering, you can specify things to make sure that, so for example, like when I tell ChatGPT to create content, and if I'm creating this content for, let's say, Taiwanese to read, I would have to specify not only, for example, make sure it is in traditional Chinese, but also at the same time, I would tell it that the target audience for this piece of content is actually for, you know, the people of Taiwan, which is important because if you don't specify that type of information, sometimes there are other, let's say, you know, issues where potentially you might not, you know, you would exhibit that type of bias. And so in your situation, I think it, you know, not only is it important to be able to create that type of possible models, okay, to, you know, for a region like the Caribbeans, but also at the same time learn how to efficiently use prompt engineering to ensure possibly some of the biases are removed when you do receive those results as well. Yeah. Okay. Second question? Yep.
Good morning. You had outlined in your presentation that people who utilize AI would replace those who do not. But maybe more specifically, or you know, more damning, for want of a better word, is people who essentially just utilize information, just get information for distribution onward or to the next group or next company, etc., would be in serious danger. For example, call centers, etc. So a developing country would need, therefore, to adjust the way its education system conveys information to young people and bring them up in terms of what they learn. So you have consulted or given symposiums in developing countries like Eswatini and I think Nigeria. In your experience, how quickly do these countries think that they have to make that adjustment in terms of the education system to get their young people ready for the new economy? How quickly they need to do it? And what specific things that they think they need to undertake in order to be successful? So how quickly they need to do it and what specific items they need to adjust in their education system to make people ready. I mean, I've seen, one of the things you outlined was relative to the conveyance of information to meeting the capabilities of the individual. I think that's an excellent one. But what specific things they need to do, how quickly they need to do it?
That's a great question. So keep in mind, I think right now ChatGPT or AI itself is still not something that everyone has in terms of the resource. So a lot of times when you are using tools like this, I think it really also gets back to, so for example, in the situation of Eswatini, they actually don't have access to tools like that. Okay, so I think to some extent, today obviously I am picturing a scenario where you have access to these tools, you have an infrastructure, let's say the internet, to be able to support these type of processing, and then allowing you to possibly maybe build your own models and everything, right? But to some extent, sometimes that's sort of the ideal situation. So I think some of the challenges and barriers to actually, in terms of execution, sometimes it is, first of all, is the infrastructure itself. Is it ready to be able to handle that type of process? And then furthermore, I think a lot of it also is in terms of the mindset. I think when we are looking at these tools, and for example, some of the examples that I shared today, I was trying to showcase that these are all responsibilities or action items that happens on a daily basis. Now, however, how do you incorporate AI into your daily tasks? I think it is, to some extent, it is part of the process. You have to bring AI in. You have to almost, to some extent, think about the collaborative, right? You're no longer working by yourself anymore. You're also possibly utilizing a tool to be able to have it do what it's good at, and then furthermore, have the humans do what he or she is also good at, right? Because in that situation, providing data is one thing, but being able to communicate, human to human, that is something, not AI can do. So in your situation, I think, like what you said before, right? How to implement, right, these type of solutions. First off, obviously, is the infrastructure. Yeah, we got to make sure that that is ready, because sometimes when that's not ready, then people are not going to have a good experience, and they're not going to enjoy it as much, right? And then secondly, I think it's about the mindset, in terms of incorporating AI, not from the perspective of, like being replaced or not replaced, but how can I use this tool? Just like before when I was writing, now I have a typewriter. Now I could, quickly write out the things, right? So it's almost like a tool to accelerate my process, accelerate my efficiency. So view it like that. So identify areas where tools such as AI can help you improve your efficiency. And then, lastly, I think it is, to some extent, it is the trend. Like I said before, it's hard to stop, right? So we have to accept it first, I think. It's because sometimes, just accepting it is a difficult process, because as I mentioned before, right, Hollywood has sort of brainwashed us over the years of these type of negative perceptions of what AI will do ultimately, right? Which at this point in time, that's probably not, something that's going to happen, but we need to sort of, accept it at the beginning as well. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Thank you. Just to comment on the education, I think we will find, if we pause and scratch the surface long enough, in Saint Lucia and by extension the Caribbean, and when I say Caribbean, I don't only mean Anglo-Caribbean. I mean all the languages. The children are ahead of the ministries of education on this. The children are ahead of the ministries of education on this, both at the national level and at the regional level vis-a-vis CXC, right? This horse has bolted. And the governments across the Caribbean, be they next door in Martinique, down the road in Suriname, or here in Saint Lucia, they have to scramble to get on board this train, because like your last slide said, get on this train or it is going to roll over us. And the children, I see the articles all the time, both, right now we have another AI conference. On the scene, thank you. When ChatGPT first burst on the scene, I had conversations with people in the education sector, and they saw no problem with it. And now they are realizing that the assignments are coming in, written by the AI, traditionally by mom and dad, but now by the AI. Now trying to put a policy in place when they should have done that 2 years ago. And I don't know what CARICOM is going, and I say CARICOM because the is a member of CARICOM. I don't know what the education system is going to do to catch up, because as I said at the beginning, the kids are on this train and they are gone. The ministries of education have traditionally moved too slow. But you hear the manufacturers talk about the system is not training our children to be ready for the workforce. And now you have layered on this, as the minister just said, the next industrial revolution. And we're still struggling in the last one. So it is really going to be, it is really, really, and it's not necessarily, we are just having a conversation, necessarily a comment, a question, but the ministries of education and they need to get something done, and if Saint Lucia finds that the other ministries are taking too long to get it done, we need to get on that train and do what we have to do, because you have just put all the case as to the whys and the wherefores.
Yeah. That's a great comment. I just want to remind everyone, kids are digital natives. Whereas we had to learn it, right? Whereas, for kids, this is all they know, right? Yeah, so, like we had to learn this, but, kids, they sort of grew up in this. So they're digital natives. And so that example that I shared with you guys, when I was doing this, I must admit, when so this was like a 3 half-day session, which was a workshop that I put together for primary kids schools, students. And you would see that, based on my experience when I was sharing, for example, to professionals versus, let's say, to kids, I found there was a huge difference in a sense of their engagement. And then furthermore, even on some of the topics that we talked about today, bias, privacy issues, these kids, they know about it. They would talk to me about, hey, Chen, how about, like deep fakes and, things of that nature, right? So you have to keep in mind, this technology to them is, is not new. It's to us, it's new. To them, it's a part of their lives. And so I think it is important to really think about how to incorporate that. Because obviously education is the most important thing, right? In any country, in any nation, and also kids are our next generation, is our hope. So I think it's important to think about how we can connect these two. And then furthermore, it's also one of the reasons why at the beginning we decided to take a leap in AI education, because to some extent, kids, not everyone are readers, not everyone are very good at, school. But when you are able to incorporate something that, they not only enjoy it, but it's almost a part of their, their daily lives, you can potentially encourage or inspire or even motivate some of these students to do great works. But however, like what she said before, I think there are things that needs to be put in place, right? Because of course, like what she said, I mean, in the past, these assignments were written by parents. Now it's written by ChatGPT. So I think, the person that should be the most happy is probably the parents, right? Because they don't need to write it anymore. But then again, I think it is still something that should be considered, right? So I think as schools, as government, I think it's important to be able to lay out that framework. But however, do let the kids do what they are good at. However, at the same time, making sure that they have the necessary framework to follow by, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we have a couple. Yeah, can we leave that last one more, or should we? Okay, one more. Okay, one last question because we're actually running a little late. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. So my question, I would like to focus a little on businesses integrating AI into their processes. And in your work with adoption of AI, especially in developing countries, what are some of the main challenges, would you say, that businesses are experiencing when they have to integrate AI into the business processes, and what is it that can be done to ensure that when that adoption is happening, that it is both feasible and beneficial to the businesses?
Yeah. So we do a lot of that. I mean, not only in Taiwan, but all parts of Asia as well. I think it's important to start small. I think because, once again, this is something really new, and I think it's important to identify areas where currently possibly it is very manual and traditional and mundane, right? So possibly identify key areas where you can quickly go in and maybe have a showcase where, because by having a positive effect at a specific task, then you're able to convince other people that, hey, let's jump on board on this. And so I think it's important to start small rather than, sometimes it's trying to, change everything. I think that is too risky. And also at the same time, make sure that, the part of, the reskilling and possibly, affecting jobs, making sure that, what can these people do once, let's say, it is possibly done by AI? What are some of the things that they can possibly, design their jobs towards, so that maybe to some extent leveraging their expertise as well. So I think for businesses, I think it's important to, identify key areas and then start small, through, let's say, these type of POCs and pilots, and then create let's say, a confidence within the group itself, so that this will be something that can be adopted throughout the organization. But lastly, I think it's, a lot of it is mindset, and a lot of it is obviously the tool that's being used, and as well as, I think sometimes the process, needs to be changed as well. So don't try to force something that is based on your traditional process, because that may not work. It needs to some extent, it needs to start with the process change, and then the mindset, and then bring in the right tools. Those are all the three things that I think is important to be able to have a successful AI adoption in the organization. Yep. Okay. Thank you. This.
Chia-yen Chen, thank you also for audience for your questions. You mentioned so much in your presentation. I mean, for sure, the zombie apocalypse, I've been hearing a lot about that. Like, persons are they just see AI as something that is just so dangerous, and sometimes they don't think about, what are the positives of it, and, really understand what really is there to fear with AI? And then also, Tesla used to generate revenue, having your car, you're at work, and then your car now is now generating revenue for you. I know here in St. Lucia, we may not be there yet, because for most persons I've spoken to about that, it's really a fear. We don't want to be driven by cars just yet here. And some important points, the replacement of AI, when we look at it, it's not right now that AI will be replacing us, but it's like AI will replace you if you do not understand AI, especially in this sense. And we have to make a special effort to educate our people and addressing the mismatch of skills, because already, like you mentioned, our students, our young persons, I'm not a student for sure, but I could just imagine, even when social media came on the scene, I'm telling you, automatic social media manager, everybody was calling. And now AI is there and they're interested. They really want to know, how can I move forward with this? How can I benefit from this? So I think it would really be something to look forward to and to really incorporate into our education system as well. And of course, the various sectors, the areas that you touched on, AI can touch on almost every sector, every area. We have the creative industries. It can touch on tourism as well, marketing. I even saw part of my job being popped up here. So AI, it can assist. And I know that we think of AI in a sense whereby, okay, that's going to steal my job. But how about it assisting with our jobs? We had a secretarial training on AI, and they were so thankful for the minutes that the AI created for them. It saved them so much time. They said in 2 days, they would try so hard to Jim would know, yes. They tried so hard, and it's like AI did that for them. And all they had to do is check for errors. And that's a very important point you brought up as well. Always check for errors, because as we know, AI is not perfect. We as human beings still have to check. And my final point is, like you said, there is always an AI for that. Work smart, not hard, as you said. And a big round of applause for Mr. Lee, everyone. We now move into our panel discussion, with the overarching topic being boosting your e-commerce sales with social selling. In this session, we will have 4 knowledgeable panelists exploring this highly relevant topic in today's society. However, before we begin, we have a surprise to share with you. Can anyone guess what the surprise is? Free iPhones? I'm so sorry. That was not in the budget. You are incorrect. So no prize money for you. I'm very sorry. But right now, I hope you will be just as excited. But right now, we would love to allow our first speaker to be properly introduced by his creation, Robota. Can you please introduce Mr. Jim Joseph?
Jim Joseph is the Director of Map and IT Solutions Limited, a technology firm based in St. Lucia. Jim has been in the IT field for 40 years. Previously served as the senior computer programmer and analyst for the government of St. Lucia for 11 years before moving into private practice. He has been an information systems management consultant for many regional and international organizations, and as a computer programmer/application developer has developed and also implemented national information systems for governments in the region. Jim pursued a master's in information systems management from the University of Liverpool and also geographic information system from the University of Leeds before his newfound passion for artificial intelligence. He has done several courses and has attained certification in artificial intelligence, machine and deep learning. He has trained many groups and individuals in both the private and public sector in AI and is an advocate for safe and responsible AI adoption. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Joseph.
Jim, can you join us on the panel? And Sheshe Roberta, much appreciated. By the way, Roberta, can you speak Mandarin?
Sorry, she just finished
Oh, guys, listen. No problem, guys. I noticed that Roberta is a very busy bot. So, we have to make the time when we get it. Roberta, I asked if you can please speak Mandarin if possible.
Do we have one that requires
Actually, Roberta can speak Creole. It sounds a bit French, the accent, but I'm sure Jim is working on it. It's a work in progress.
Okay, so maybe she'll do it afterwards.
Okay, so Roberta has gone to her other meeting, and we will touch base with her at a later date. Okay, guys, a big round of applause for Mr. Jim Joseph. Joining Mr. Joseph on the panel is none other than Dr. Samuel. Dr. Thomas Samuel is an economist by training and worked as a former senior economist in the Research and Policy Development Unit of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. He is a graduate of the University of the West Indies, UWI, and holds a master's in international economics, banking and finance at the University of Wales, Cardiff. He later pursued postgraduate training in the field of international economics with a focus on international trade and development at the Auckland University of New Zealand. He is also the former director of international trade in the Ministry of Commerce and is currently a trade consultant and advisor attached to the ministry. Dr. Samuel is a former member of the Caribbean Public Research Institute and served as a part-time lecturer with the University of the West Indies, as well as Monroe College, lecturing in courses in economics and finance. And my former lecturer as well. Please give a round of applause for Dr. Thomas Samuel, everyone. Roberta, are you with us? Could you assist me in welcoming Ms. Nisa Pierre to the panel discussion?
Nisa Pierre is a software engineer at Orbtronics Limited and a recent graduate of the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill, with a BSc in mathematics and computer science. Her expertise lies in web and mobile application development, with a strong command of Python and its use in artificial intelligence. Commitment to advancing technology and education highlights her dedication to fostering innovation and her passion for creating impactful software that meets real-world needs. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Nisa Pierre.
Share, Roberta, much appreciated. And of course, last but definitely not least, we have Mr. Chen Li, our feature presenter, as part of our esteemed panel. Another round of applause for Mr. Li and all of our panelists this morning. So, Mr. Li, my first question to you would be, given our overarching topic being boosting your e-commerce sales with social selling, how would you define social selling and how does it differ from traditional sales strategies?
So first off, we're all very familiar with the traditional selling, right? Which to some extent involves cold calling and possibly creating, from a list, maybe the telephone books, whatever. So that's what I call the traditional selling. When we utilize social selling, to some extent, it's leveraging social media as a platform, and then furthermore, the users of the platform are possibly your intended customers or audience. And the process of social selling, it's not, whereas before you're actively trying to pitch your product, it's really about building relationships, just like you do on Facebook with your family and friends. So to some extent, social selling is a combination of utilizing social media and then, of course, practicing sort of what they call the inbound marketing or inbound in terms of generating, creating that relationship with your potential customers. So I think that's the difference. I mean, versus the traditional one where you're actively trying to pitch your product. Social is more about building that relationship on, the right social media platforms. Yeah.
Nice. So sounds like an influencer in a nutshell. Yeah. So yes, I'm sure we've all heard of the influencers. It's actually this new occupation right now that honestly most of our young people are very interested in. So it's coming up now, and it's great to just see the alignment. Thank you, Mr. Lee. And Nisa, what role does AI play in personalizing customer experiences in e-commerce? What would you say?
I think artificial intelligence plays a great and a major role in personalizing user experiences and even recommendations, how you just enter, for instance, Amazon. I think everybody, even as maybe as a square as it seems, everybody wants Amazon to be like, their own personal store. You want it to look like something that you're interested in. And so it uses your past searches, and not only your past searches, but people who have maybe the same interests as you, their past searches, their past purchases, to help give you a personalized experience, which is what users always want. You want to feel like as if you're in your personal space. And so artificial intelligence helps with that. And so e-commerce for small businesses, for instance, having artificial intelligence in your e-commerce business allows you to target customers right where they are.
Nice, thank you very much. And I am sure that this does resonate with some of us. I mean, have you ever been scrolling and all of a sudden you see a blue dress pop up that you were scrolling on Amazon for? It's the same blue dress, and then you get those suggestions. This is AI being personalized. So it's no more so much focused on search engine optimization, trying to be at the top page ranking in Google. Right now, there are ways whereby you now can get your customer to see your product depending on what they spend most of their time searching for. I know that I have seen online on Facebook, every time I enter Facebook, it's like they're recommending a university for me, and I was just scrolling, and it's like, okay, thank you very much, and then the blue dress pops up, and then something else that I was scrolling on. So they are noting this, and this is what the world is coming to, very personalized. So thank you so much for your contribution, Nisa. A round of applause again. And Dr. Samuel, my question to you is, should AI be regulated nationally and globally at the development stage? What are your views?
Thank you for your question. It's really a big question, really. I don't have a simple answer. The truth is, it's in this early stage of development, and most times the approach is that you do not want to have regulation to stifle innovation and growth and development. But at the same time, as one of our speakers was saying earlier on, CXC should have gotten in early enough. We need to be proactive and to sort of anticipate where the technology might take us and what are the threats and risks that we face. And so we need to put in some parameters for the sort of use of AI in our respective jurisdictions. As Dr. Chen said earlier on, Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, I think he spoke earlier on this year at I think the Congress in May, and he's optimistic about AI, but he also thinks that there is need for regulation. But as everything else, it's not what you do, but how you do it. Yes. So rather than have sort of horizontal common things applying across all aspects of AI, it needs to be context specific, where it's tailored to the threats that are associated with various aspects of AI. And so really it calls for creative planning on the part of the various jurisdiction authorities in terms of how we configure. Because remember, it's a tool to boost productivity, boost our competitiveness, and we do not want to stifle or say the product before it matures. So in essence, yes, regulation, but it's about how we do it.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Okay, excellent response, and I just would like to touch on that as well, because even yesterday, you know, our dear Prime Minister was saying, you know, especially with deep fakes, and if some of you aren't really with deep fakes, it's basically like taking your image and somebody is literally putting speech to your image, allowing it to talk. You don't even have to send a video. It can be a picture. They can say anything. They did it to Trump. I mean, I'm not sure if you saw it, President Trump at the time. And it's really something that is concerning, because when we look at what our society can become as a result of these things, we really have to take that into consideration to create proper regulation, if possible. Pardon? Because yes, they were using their images, yes.
If I could just add, well, that is why some countries, especially the EU and even the US, they are putting in a sort of very robust systems to manage data privacy and to mitigate the risks of misuse of personal information.
Okay.
So you have such as the general protection on private data regulations that they have to kind of put responsibilities based on certain principles of, you know, to ensure that there's accountability in the use. There's data minimization, where you only use what you need to use, and all of these sort of principles to guide companies that are using data as a fuel to boost their competitiveness, so that you don't have a free-for-all where you could just use data indiscriminately and so forth, and there has to be accountability.
Yes.
So that is what we must learn from as ourselves as we begin to embrace the technology.
Yes, very, very true. So yes, so while we don't want to stifle it, we want to embrace it, but we have to have the proper parameters. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. And Mr. Jim Joseph, in what ways can AI-driven chatbots be utilized in social selling to improve customer experience? And if you don't mind, I guess a short definition of what a chatbot is for some persons who don't know.
Okay, thank you so much, Stans. By the way, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yes.
Much appreciated. Share.
I think the question is a very, very important one. I think Sansa is someone who fell in love with Roberta the first day she heard her and saw her. But basically what a chatbot is, well, we all know what chatting is. Well, a bot is a robot. So basically you could think of a chatbot as a robot that's chatting. So you have a chatbot that would be on your web page, or it may be in your WhatsApp, but it's a way of interacting with you and providing you with information and you providing information to it. So it's communicating with you. We saw a while ago, in fact we heard Roberta, and we saw Roberta, and I did Roberta about 2 years ago, and then I put a face to her. But these are the kinds of interactions that you want to be able to have, because we all are human, we have limitations, and of course we shut down at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Business stops at 4 o'clock. For those of us working in government, 3 o'clock.
4:30.
In the morning. Oh, wait. 3 o'clock in the morning.
4:30.
Because while everybody is sleeping, that's the time PS is doing work.
Yes.
Right? Weekends, you all thought you all were going to get me, right? I'm a consultant for government, so I can tell you, we do work overnight. But what happens, and we saw this topic is so important. social selling. While you are sleeping or while you're doing something else, why not have this bot working for you 24 hours while you are resting or doing something? It's working for you. So social selling, and we heard that definition explained, we have to look at it not just from the perspective of the consumer, but we also have to look at it in terms of persons like myself or yourself who are engaged in business activity, and how you can leverage it as a tool to increase your productivity. So social selling is an important key, where you're selling on social media, you're interacting on social media, and you're using whatever tools you can have at your disposal to be able to do it. So a chatbot is something that can interact with your customers, and it can do several things. Number one, I said work 24/7, providing insight to your customers. So for example, as Sansa said, prompting you, making recommendations, guiding the conversation based on your personal needs. And one of the things we have to understand is in social selling, it is about a tailored and customized interaction and response. So basically, this is what you want to do, to be able to tailor that response, tailor that interaction, so that you are able to pinpoint exactly what the customer wants or what you want the customer to get from you. So a chatbot is an effective way, and I'll be demoing at the booth where we will have a live human, a digital human, who will be speaking and answering questions just like a real human being, and you'll be able to speak to her almost like you're speaking to somebody face to face, and ask her anything about my company, about the services we offer, about the technology, and almost about anything, so I can guide the response. So I don't even need to be there. I mean, I haven't put it up now, but I'm going to do it in a short while. But even while I'm not there, customers can interact and be speaking and have the freedom to be able to speak. And of course, you saw Roberta. So these are the things that a chatbot will allow you to do. And it provides us with the competitive advantage, and also it leverages the use of the technology.
Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. And yes, and again, I would just like to make the disclaimer, because I'm a public servant myself, and let me tell you, some public servants, they go above and beyond. Like even for this expo, I know they left work 10, 9, yes, maybe even 4 a.m. So I would just like to give a round of applause for the persons who do work hard in the public service. And we hope that that spirit, spreads. Thank you so much. And again, yes, for the chatbot. When I first saw Roberta or heard of what she could do, I was really impressed, because it's like, it's like a worker in your sleep. I remember one of our first events, and we saw Roberta, and Roberta literally made a call to a random person in the audience. It turned out to be Miss Betty Comby, and I know some of you may know her, but it's Betty answered the call. And Roberta is speaking as if, she has been employed with Jim and his team for a while. She's saying, hi, good day, are you interested in training and so on? And then she's having a conversation with Betty, and she could have booked that appointment then and there. And I said, wow, that is really amazing. So even though, she corrected Betty as well, because I believe that she thought, she was programmed to say that Betty was a mister, but when she heard her voice and realized that it was a female speaking, she changed it, and she apologized and said, sorry, Miss Comby instead of Mr. Comby. And I found that amazing, because some of us we do know about a general deepfake. We do know about, okay, this thing has a picture, I can allow it to speak, I can do whatever I want with it. But at the end of the day, sometimes it stops just there. Some of us do not know that these things can basically sometimes act as an employee for us. As he said, making money while we sleep, even with Tesla. Imagine your car in the future making money while you are at work. I mean, honestly, that's some sort of a dream. So, yeah. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution. And Mr. Chen, back to you. Yeah. So what role does AI play in the social selling process? I know you mentioned, and we did touch on what social selling actually is. We linked it to influencers. What's AI's role here?
Well, the obvious role is, in order to do social selling well, you have to engage in that relationship, right? And so, especially when you're doing social selling, you have to create content, right? You have to be able to create content to attract, let's say, your target audience. And so creating content itself can be facilitated using AI tools. Nice. Like I mentioned earlier, whether it be, the actual text itself, or whether it be images, and then furthermore, like we all love videos nowadays, videos can be created as well. So, so at the very beginning, I think AI can definitely help that aspect of it. And then furthermore, like what Jim was saying, I mean, AI, by utilizing chatbots, things of that nature, that is also facilitating the overall social selling process as well. So, and then furthermore, I think because you are, selling online, there's a lot of, let's say, potential data that can be collected, whether it be, for example, behavior data, whether it be, let's say, testing data and all that stuff. So data can be also analyzed using specific AI tools as well. So whether it be, your storytelling process of creating content, whether it be providing a more personalized engagement using, let's say, chatbot, or at the end of the day, with all the data that's collected because it is on a social platform or on the internet, then these data can vice versa be analyzed, and then furthermore, reevaluated, analyzed, and then furthermore provide an even better experience, and then furthermore targeting the right customers that are interested in your product.
Yes, very true. Thank you so much. Yes, we have to make these connections, because with that social selling and AI, when we realize that even, let's say, in the future some persons become influencers, because let me tell you, they do make a lot of money. They now can use AI to generate reels or even TikTok videos. And it's like, if we now have that, it's the time. Let me tell you, I have created reels, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot. It's a lot of, perhaps even hours, depending on how long the reel is. And as Chen showed us in his presentation, it's like something that takes hours. Even like Mr. Ross Daniel said during our AI Summit Saint Lucia, it's like something that takes hours to design. You now have this generating some initial ideas for you within 2, 3, 4 minutes for the most. So it's really a help, especially, again, in terms of social selling. And if you can, please share with us some successful Taiwanese companies' social selling case studies.
Yeah. So, influencers, obviously, those are more of the B2C. In Taiwan, obviously, we have a lot of manufacturing, and then so in that sense, we focus a lot on B2B. And so B2B, you can actually do social selling as well. So, for example, we help businesses in terms of how to utilize social media platforms such as LinkedIn. Which would be perfect for you to find your next buyer or your next procurement, right? So I noticed, like yesterday, when we were at the event, we, here in Saint Lucia, we have a lot of products that we create ourselves. Yes. And then I remember yesterday, Prime Minister also said, right, not only do we want to sell locally, but we want to actually be able to sell globally as well.
Yes.
So when you are engaging in the global market, it is important to, once again, right, to find your buyers or your potential customers. And so in that situation, social selling plays a part as well. Right? In that situation, we may not use Facebook, we may not use IG because that's more for consumers. But let's say with LinkedIn, you would be able to identify professionals that are potentially in that specific industry that you're looking for, identify, let's say, their job role, their job titles. Those are the people that possibly would make a decision on your product. And then you would do exactly the same thing, create content, create case studies, create white papers, create, let's say, stories, testimonials about your product, share this type of information to your potential buyers, let's say, whether it be in the US or maybe in UK, build that relationship. And then so at the end of the day, you would be able to successfully sell not only locally, but also globally. So that would be like an example of not only in Taiwan, I think it would also apply here in Saint Lucia as well, to utilize social selling to help our products to be global. Yep.
Yes, excellent point. Thank you so much. And Nisa, how can AI help specifically small e-commerce businesses in Saint Lucia? I know we spoke about the chatbots, but I mean, you are engaging sometimes with those persons directly. And what are the challenges and how exactly can it help the small e-commerce businesses here?
Yes, so absolutely. Artificial intelligence can definitely help small e-commerce businesses. It's not only about big businesses. I think a lot of times people hear artificial intelligence and they think that it needs to be something huge, something super impactful, something that takes a lot of time to develop. But working at Optronics as a software developer and having to work with a lot of e-commerce businesses, people who want to get their websites up, people who want to get their products up on the web, a lot of the time they're actually very interested in artificial intelligence chatbots because that is really a place for them to work with customer service, which is something that I think a lot of businesses in St. Lucia kind of struggle with, having customer service, having good customer service. And so a lot of the times now, e-commerce businesses are focused on getting that customer service up and running, and that's with chatbots. But that in itself is not such an extremely hard thing to do. And so I think a lot of small e-commerce businesses can get chatbots available on their websites. Imagine we recently had a summer program and we taught probably around 100 12 to 16-year-old kids, and they got their chatbots up and running in one day.
Nice.
They got their chatbots up and running in one day using OpenAI, the API. And so it takes some training, definitely, to get things targeted and tailored to your business specifications. But definitely there are a lot of AI tools that you can use. And afterwards, actually, I'd be willing to share, you can scan a QR code, and I'll be willing to share a list of my favorite free AI tools that you can use throughout your daily life here.
Thank you so much, Nisa. And the Q&A, wow, okay, so we can get it for free, so that's amazing. That's amazing. So yeah, so I guess if you're struggling with it, Nisa has a solution for it, and it really is simpler than we think. So thank you so much for that contribution. Dr. Samuel, what in your view are some of the ways AI can assist to enhance public sector development and competitiveness?
Oh, public sector. Well, again, the general utility of AI is how you can use historical data that's available. So you have databases available, and it's idle. But if you can now have a tool, an AI-powered tool that can utilize information to give you deeper insights into that data, you get different dimensions, other diagnostics. Earlier on, you saw a presentation where Dr. Chen indicated how you're able to take some basic information and get a lot of information out of it, which has value. Mm-hmm. Okay, so essentially, the government service is no different to the private sector in needing to use information to make better decisions. Okay, so the public service, for example, one of the things we do in the HR department is screen persons applying for a job, applicants. If you have a whole lot of persons applying for a job, and you set some parameters as to what you're looking for, then you can sort of configure or put your advanced searches or do what you need to do to get the information elicited from the software. Okay, so it's like blind, they call it blind hiring, but you set up certain parameters and you can get short lists of persons and you can have an interview. So it saves time, and it is I think is more impactful that way. And I mean, throughout the length and breadth of the government, it's about changing an attitude to embracing culture, getting the public sector to embrace the paradigm of change that is coming with new technologies that are somewhat disruptive, but we now have to adapt to them to sort of maximize the benefits. It's about optimizing resources. And so it can promote a sort of a sea change, a shift in the way we approach tasks and how we do things by incorporating modern technologies, such as AI tools in decision making in a host of areas. I could speak to you on perhaps whether it be in the health sector, agriculture, tourism. We can use AI tools to give us the information that we really want, and you can specify what that is, but I wouldn't get into that. But if you need, we can walk through and share some experiences on that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution. Yes, and as he stated, AI can be used in various sectors. We've seen it in the tourism industry. You saw it in manufacturing. We saw it in creative industries.
Additive manufacturing.
Pardon?
Additive manufacturing, 3D printing, using 3D big data to help you prototyping and things like that, to get samples and all of that type of thing.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for that. And yes, we do, endeavor to use it more in the public service. And I'm also happy to report that the National Competitiveness and Productivity Council, they've already begun training some of our public service secretaries. So they are getting acquainted with the technology and they are very interested. Mr. Jim Joseph can let you know more about that, but it's a start, and it's good that, we're embracing this. And yes, so Mr. Joseph, in a nutshell, what is one's social selling index, your SSI, and how can AI assist in improving one's score in the index?
So why did you give me the hardest question?
I am so sorry.
Okay, I'll attempt.
Respects.
Okay, thank you very much. But that is important. Many of us use social media platforms, and my colleague here spoke about LinkedIn. How many of us are on LinkedIn?
I know some person.
Okay, so that's an important question, and I'm happy you put your hand up. But what does that really mean? Does it just mean that being on a platform is sufficient enough? No. And many of us go on these platforms and we probably once in a blue moon click a like, we drop a comment. It's sort of like just letting people know we're around.
Live.
And when you have to think about social selling, it's about a personalized experience. And the social selling index, basically it's a rating that you get. It's something that's done by LinkedIn. And you could always, when you're in LinkedIn, just search for social selling index. And it gives you a score. It's personal, you alone can see it, nobody can see it. And it looks at different aspects of what's called the social selling index. Because basically it looks at 4 things. So number 1, it looks at your profile. Many of us just create a profile and we figure, oh, well, we'll attract persons if I put a nice picture of me in a suit next to a computer. Wow. But we have to understand that a lot of these things are built around algorithms, and AI is what's really driving all of this. And recommendations and even associations are based on the type of information that you have on the social media platforms. So the first thing that it looks at is your profile. So what kind of picture do you have? Do you have, for example, a headline that says something about you or the area of your expertise? That it have a summary of, you know, what you've done, where you've worked, your past experiences, recommendations and endorsements of persons. So it looks at that first thing, and it gives you a score based on what it sees in your LinkedIn profile. The second thing that it looks at is the persons that you interact with. So are you finding the right persons? So for example, I'm into AI, but am I looking for persons who are into fitness? Or I'm looking at persons who are into something, and it has nothing to do with my profile. So really it looks at you finding and networking with the right persons, and it looks at, algorithms look at the kinds of connections that you have, the kinds of associations that you have, the kinds of endorsements you get from persons. So it looks at the right person. It's sort of like a playground. When you go to play, you don't just play with everybody, but you have a like, or you have similar likes. The next thing that it looks at is something that is called your insights. Basically, it's like what you respond to. So what you like, so basically it's your interaction with your insights. So if I click a like, or if I comment, so it looks at those kinds of things. Are you just liking? Because some of us go on Facebook and we just tick like, or we put a heart, just so the person would think, hey, we interested, or we say, yeah, nice. All right. So it looks at all of these, and it sees the quality of your response, the type of responses that you're giving, whether it really makes sense, whether persons are agreeing with it, what's the kind of conversation that you have. And the next thing that it looks at, the fourth area, is that of building lasting relationships, because basically your social media encounter is about building relationships, because that's how you get money as business persons. All right, it's about a lasting relationship. So basically the social selling index is a number that it gives you based on all of these. So other platforms don't have it, but this gives you a guideline as to what you can do on other platforms as well to boost your rating and to make sure that you are connecting.
And seen by the persons you want to be seen by.
Yes, seen the persons you want to be seen by, and persons who you want to see you, because it's about establishing relationships, and then the long-term goal is about making money. All right, so sometimes, basically, yeah. No, well, that's the way it should work, because that's what the algorithms are based on. It looks at all these things. It doesn't look at the fact that Stanza wants to make money as what will rank you up there. It takes those things into consideration, and those things develop networks and relationships. Because business is about relationship.
True.
Some of my biggest clients are because I have developed a relationship and trust with them. So basically it's the same thing on social media platforms, that is about trust. Yeah.
Nice. And we just circled back to, again, what is social selling? And that's exactly what it is. So yeah, so when you speak about that, yes, we do see it, and although LinkedIn can actually give a figure, I mean, I'm sure some of us are also familiar with it on the other platforms. For instance, for Facebook and Instagram, when I notice, if you like, okay, it doesn't have to be cat videos or anything, but if you like a large amount of, let's say, cat videos or blue dresses, that is what will keep showing up on your feed. So that's the way, I guess, it's integrated in the other platforms. And like Jim mentioned, for True, it's also your length of response. So look, they're even analyzing, did this person write nice under a photo, which is not as elaborate as, oh my, you did an amazing job, I really loved conversing with you, and then you write paragraphs under one and then you write nice under the other. Obviously that will be taken into consideration. And even Instagram, if you are not careful and you do not use Instagram too much, they may detect that you may not be real if you do. I've noticed that about Instagram. It's like they would trace your behavior, and if I'm not sure for whatever reason, but that they detect, maybe there's something off about this, because maybe you're writing nice on everything. Every person you see, nice, she's wearing a red dress, nice, you saw a cat, nice, you saw, so it's the same comment. So that,
if I could just give you an example that happened to me yesterday.
Oh my, they kicked you out?
No, okay, let me tell you. So I was preparing for the trade show, and I decided that I would upload some videos. I did some AI videos, and I uploaded it to my business, my Facebook business page. And when I came back, it said, we suspect you're in violation of Facebook's policy.
Yep.
And we need a photo of you to identify that it's you while we assess it to see whether we should ban you from it.
Wow.
So I uploaded the picture, and they said you have 24 hours to, or 48 hours to appeal. So I appealed.
Wow.
My cousin, she works with Facebook, and she is one of Facebook, the first black person in the UK to have gotten an award from Facebook as one of their top AI social media marketers.
Nice.
And Mark actually came across he and his wife to give her that award.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, let me call Cheryl, and Cheryl will call somebody who will unblock me because I have this thing to do tomorrow. So I WhatsApp her. I called her, I didn't get her. I WhatsApp her. She says, cuz I'm in a meeting, anything urgent? I'm like, yeah, cuz can you help me? My Facebook thing was blocked. Can you call somebody for me? She's like, Jim, it's all AI, right? She told me, yeah, it really sucks that we are at the place where AI is handling everything and there's not somebody that I could call. I said, yeah, cuz I should know. She said, yeah, I know. You're smart. You'll think of something. And she said, yeah, it really sucks. But appeal, though. And but it just showed that it's all algorithm. So although we say, but really it's AI doing those things behind the scenes and working for us. And I wrote her and I says, cuz realistically, why should somebody at Facebook be waiting for somebody like me to upload a video to email me back and to say, I will look over the video to see whether you are in violation or not. All right? So it is all algorithms, and I just thought I'd share this.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Yes.
But I'll call my cousin again later.
Okay, wow. Yes, wow. You see, as he highlighted, of course, there are still some disadvantages. With AI, we would love to know that it's Marsha who is there evaluating our profile, so that Marsha can say, yes, Jim is a real person. But unfortunately, I wish you blessings in appealing, and I hope that your issue is sorted. Thank you so much. And with that, one last question for anyone who feels to answer. What would you tell someone who is genuinely afraid of the level of which this technology is at? Any takers? Well, you did touch on it, but we'd just like to get a bit more comfort, I guess, for those persons who are still apprehensive.
Well, fear is a natural instinct, and it's actually good to have some fear. It helps us to be cautious in engaging things. But the antidote to fear is information. And we do not overcome our fears by just thinking about it, but really by confronting it head on. And by doing that, we engage and we then can become empowered. And that now allows us to be the master. You see, most times when we do not understand something and we stay away from it, then we fill the gap with assumptions and all kinds of things, and we act upon it. But if we engage, then we are likely to be in a better place. One of the things we also must say is that there's the march of time, and as you know, everything keeps changing and moving.
Yes.
And it's as you said, as he said earlier on, rather than try to stop the train, you should try to ride the train, get on board. So it's again an attitude. AI is technology that enhances productivity and effectiveness. Yes, it helps in a lot of ways. So the market is the verdict, provides the verdict on AI, and the market says yes to AI. And that's, as long as the market says yes, it's market tested, so it's irreversible. So therefore, now that it's there, the best we can do is how do we harness, how do we deploy, how do we optimize the use of AI. So the short answer to your friend who's asking is that fear not, but just be curious enough to ask, and there are lots of people around like Jim and Dr. Chen and others who are there willing to help you demystify and understand. And in a matter of years, you'd be saying, what was I afraid of, really? All right? Everything, including the most basic technology like in your kitchen, a knife, can be good or bad. It was, yes, at one time it was groundbreaking technology, albeit maybe a millennia ago, but it was groundbreaking technology when it was discovered. So the point is, you can use everything for good or for bad, but the choice is really ours. And so the individual can also do the same with respect to the technology. But it's not like in the movies as we saw all the gods of the machine taking over and destroying us. We still have control.
Yes, that's very comforting for them. So it's about research and seeking truth.
Yes, Sansa, if I could just piggyback on what Danny's saying, and just want to answer Dawn French, the question that she had and the comments that she made earlier. Just to tie it in, I was at the Global South AI Summit taking place here right now as we speak, and I couldn't be there today because of the trade show. But some of us may not know that there's a lot taking place at higher levels. That knowledge has not filtered down to the ground as yet. 4 years ago, I like to mention this, when I was a keynote speaker for the Principals Association, I spoke to them about AI and telling them like in the next 2 years, AI would have disrupted the education sector, and we would not know what to do, we would not know how to respond to it. I was really elated just being there at the first day of the summit when I heard a lot of the things that are happening, that are taking place. Last night I had a lengthy discussion with Dr. Dicas Jules, I'm director of the OECS Secretariat, and he was mentioning to me, and he was also speaking in terms of some of the work that they are doing, and Optronics is a key part of this, and we spent almost half an hour or so just speaking about what they're doing, addresses not just the concerns that you have, but they've actually been proactive in developing a model, developing an AI model specific to us in the region, and it's actually being piloted in some of the islands. I don't know if you want to just speak about it briefly.
Yeah. Yes, so the OECS has been working on a digital curriculum, right, for specifically right now targeting primary schools. And so recently what we actually worked on was a student-graded database, a place where not only students and teachers, but also parents can have access to insights on their students, their progress over the years, right? There are also aspects of the digital curriculum like a makerspace for teachers, where they would be able to use artificial intelligence to generate lesson plans, to generate assignments, to correct assignments, and just a whole load of good things that are coming from the OECS currently right now with the digital curriculum. So they're currently working on it. We already started. The Grader database has already actually been built and currently just in testing. Yeah.
Nice, nice. We love to hear it. Bridging the digital divide. We thank you for assisting.
And it's not based on like ChatGPT. The information does not go out. It's contained within its own model. It's built on our data sets with our profiles, information on demographics and all kinds of information that's based on our situation within the region and tailored per country, per school, per student. So it filters right down so you can have actual lesson plans at an individual level. So you can assess, the teacher can assess the learning skills of a particular student and know how to interact. So basically the things that I demonstrated at the keynote, where you have like Khan Academy, where you have lessons that are tailored for individuals, but we will have this thing for ourselves. So the future is bright, and there are a lot of things happening. I mean, we need to give ourselves, a round of applause that we can do those things ourselves and build capabilities within the country. So again, Government of Taiwan and the Ministry of Commerce, NCPC, they're really doing a lot of work. So thank you.
Nice to know that we can give the prompts to AI so we can train it. Nice to know. Thank you again for such a rich discussion. Now, right now, I mean, I hope that I asked some of the questions that you wanted to ask, but I would still love to open the floor to the audience for any questions, comments, concerns. Yes, Ms. French? Do I need the mic? Yes, please, for our live audience.
Thank you. Thank you, panel. A recommendation, Minister. I don't know if it's being done, but if not, my recommendation is to the Attorney General's chambers to do a review of the laws of Saint Lucia, because the tentacles of AI is not only for AI. There was a case last month in the United States where someone had a conversation with a chatbot. Their air conditioning unit was malfunctioned. They had a discussion with the chatbot. The chatbot promised to replace the AC unit, and the company said no. So the client sued because the company is saying the chatbot is not an employee, they are a consultant. Wow. And the client is saying, no, it is your chatbot. You have to deal with the consequences of what the chatbot promised, because it's a verbal contract between us. The court agreed with the client, and the company had to do what the chatbot promised, right? So we are, so I keep hearing that. That's why my hand flew up at the beginning, because we were talking about chatbot at the time, right? So we are encouraging the companies here to have a chatbot. Massey tell me the chatbot at Massey tell me they have a Journey Creole sale, right? And I come inside Massey, and the supervisor don't know nothing what I'm talking about. Where does the loss? I just pick on Massey. Okay, I see Margaret. I could be Winward and Leeward for like, I just picked on a company. What I could be sued, and I hopefully they have a chatbot lawyer out there. But a company a local company's chatbot makes a promise, and I try to hold that company to the promise of their chatbot, and the company says, "How is me, huh?" Right? Where does the laws of Saint Lucia, how does it protect me, right? But it's consumer protection, but is it analog consumer protection? Because a lot of our laws not keeping up with the technology and the intellectual property protections that are out there. And I'm just giving the example because it happened last month. But there are so the good brother there put up the example of the chat of the AI copying the style of Monet.
Yes.
I will tell you flat, the Monet Foundation will sue.
You can't just take
right? So there's a lot of implications. The United States and the European Union are trying to put laws in place to deal with this, and whether it be at the CARICOM level, OECS, or just Saint Lucia, we need a review of our laws, and where it needs to be tighten up, and where it covers it, it covers it.
Nice, thank you. Would you like to respond? Okay. So after.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Just further to the conversation regarding chatbots. Just this week, I was watching a news clip regarding a 7-year-old who engaged with a chatbot, and the 7-year-old had suicidal tendencies. And it was displayed that the chatbot essentially encouraged the young man to go through with his actions. We are essentially, the internet puts us at a level playing field. Essentially what a child in the US and the UK and Taiwan can access, our children can access it as well. Now, I am one for technology, and I embrace all the positives that come with technology. But let us be very aware that our children are not as thoughtful as we are, and some of our children may be, if left unchecked, may be put on paths that we only know about after it's a little bit too late. That's my contribution.
Thank you, and I know that please, Dr. Samuel, and after Dr. Samuel, I know that Jim does have a solution, which is why we speak about, innovating locally as well. So I'm sure Jim can touch on that, but Mr. Samuel, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just a quick comment that flows from what was being said by Dawn, Ms. French. This is one of the areas that we have to use our intellectual property rights framework, because the Claude Monet, case that was used is a case of, proprietary knowledge, skills. It has an owner, so we need to make sure there's no intellectual property and right infringement, which is be the basis of such a challenge. Okay, so these are the areas that we have to sort of configure our regimes domestically into our regulatory arrangements to deal with this. Now, the point that was just made by the gentleman of the young but that is one of the concerns that has been raised in the U.S. About especially TikTok as another thing that is dominated by a lot of young persons like TikTok, and there are persons in the U.S. who are concerned that young children are vulnerable to the influences, subliminal influences that are associated with TikTok in influencing behavior and antisocial and undesirable behaviors. Okay, I'll give it now to Mr. Joseph.
Okay, thank you. I'll briefly deal with both of them. Recently, through the registry of companies, I was chosen as one of the participants in a training session by WIPO on artificial intelligence and looking at this whole subject of intellectual property and intellectual property rights. So, and they're actually working with individual companies. So we have a number of persons who are dealing with intellectual property and intellectual property concerns and rights. So they are actually working with me on an individual basis, looking at the products and services that I'm developing and guiding me in terms of what to do and how the laws apply, okay? So I'm saying that these are some of the things that we can do. I think Ministry of Commerce definitely would have encouraged some of their clients to attend similar types of workshops. In connection with the case you cited, this young boy had mental problems. His family was aware of the situation and actually left him unattended with the chatbots. He actually spoke to several of them. He knew what was wrong. He knew he was speaking to a chatbot. And basically, he felt that basically the situation was he was depressed, and then he felt that he would take his life, and he told the chatbot that he's going to take his life. And the chatbot said, well, if you go, then that means I would die too, meaning that the boy would not be there anymore, and basically he took himself, so the chatbot and him would be in heaven, kind of, right? But you can see that this is a case where there was some problems, but it's about responsibility. It's like leaving a bottle of Clorox right there, and your child has access to it. It's about personal responsibility and accountability, and these are very beneficial tools, but very dangerous tools, all right? And there are a lot of privacy, a lot of ethical and moral issues that we need to look at, not just looking at it from the perspective of intellectual rights and intellectual property rights, but it goes back to what Mr. Lee was speaking about the human element, and even looking at what's called the social selling index. It actually looks at 3 elements. It looks at you, it looks at the client, and it looks at the platform. And basically, you are at the center of those 3 things. And there has to be this whole interaction of the 3 elements to ensure that there's harmony in all 3 of them. But it just goes back to the new kinds of dimensions and topics that we need to deal with. And I'm happy that the government and I mean, at some of the sessions, and I've trained, my company, we've trained like some of the managers and department heads in government, in IT. We just did through NCPC about 24 secretaries. So there's actually a lot happening that's educating persons about responsibilities. But that answers your question, Dawn. Yeah.
Yes,
Mine was about the law and the
yes.
saying that chatbot not an employee. It was about the...
Yeah, so I'm just saying that there, in terms of company, in terms of responsibilities and understanding where the laws apply, these are things that we need to educate the public about. These are things that we need to have discussions on. There's a lot happening at a regional level. I mean, UNESCO actually in 2021, and it was spoken about at the Global South Summit. But how many of us know that UNESCO did something, a framework for the Caribbean that we're not aware of, that guides that whole AI implementation thrust?
And I just have a comment just as a AI technology solution provider, for example, I mean, for us, when we are creating products such as sort of, the Reed Sphere, we try to make sure that, of course, we rely a lot on the algorithm, on the model, but we also include the human process in here. So what does that mean? It means that, for example, when we create content, when we are regenerating content, we have metrics that are in place to make sure that if, let's say, the content itself deviates from the original content that came from it, when it becomes statistical significant, then we have people actually, with English backgrounds going in there, looking at the regenerated content to make sure that the regenerated content, not only does it still maintain its integrity, but also it doesn't deviate from the intended purpose. And so you see this process in a lot of the technology that are being developed, right? For example, OpenAI, in ChatGPT, they also have a human feedback loop as well, So I think, as, for me, as a technology provider, I think it is important, that not only are we creating products, utilizing, on the basis of the AI model, but also at the same time, as a human-centered AI researcher, it is also important to bring the human process into this loop, just to ensure that whatever solution that we do provide for our end user, it is taken into account, not only, from an AI perspective, but also, the human part of it also plays a role in possibly monitoring, the ultimate output of this. So yeah, that's just something that I want to share with you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and you brought up a very good point, local prompts. We have to know who exactly is programming the AI, especially to greatly decrease the chances of that unfortunate situation happening. So I just want to thank you so much for your engagement, and panelists, Chia-yen, for your insightful answers. I would like to now invite Mr. Paul Hille, Permanent Secretary in the Department of Economic Development and Youth Economy, to the podium, please. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Hille.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was hoping to be introduced, Jim. Firstly, let me recognize the protocol that have already been established. Nonetheless, I want to specifically recognize the minister, and I noticed she spent the entire half day or almost the whole day with us. Ambassador Chen as well, and my colleague, Permanent Secretary. I want to start off, and I don't want to spend too much time because I'm now standing between you and your lunch, and I know we have gone overboard. But I want to start by, just putting AI into perspective. Firstly, you would now recognize that someone who would go to Taco to make an order would no longer be speaking to someone, but you'd be speaking to a robot, which will now take your order and ask you exactly what you want to purchase. It is now in the perfume industry, in developing fragrances and, trying to memorize formulas. No longer do you have to every time go into the lab and develop those formulas and test it. All of that is well documented. Even now you have it with the Uber system. We saw the display there, and Uber now being able to take you from point A to point B without drivers. It's even in the accounting field. In fact, it's all over us. And therefore, it doesn't take a 2020 vision for one to see how quickly AI is now taking over. And as the saying was, it's not a question of if, but when. And therefore, we have to ensure that we get ready for the new development that is taking place. And it is not anything new to us, and it's something that we must not be afraid of. We started, if you look at the evolution of civil society from artisan trade, where you had persons working the fields and using all kind of tools, hand tools on their hands to produce. Albeit as the evolution took place, this was not a very efficient and competitive way. We move into automation. And what did automation do? Did it replace skills? No. But humans learn to adapt to automation, use it for productivity, use it in terms of improving efficiency. And therefore, AI must not be treated in any different way. What the AI is now doing is to use automation and the human interaction, the human ability to analyze in routine practices and processes and jobs to assist us. So whilst you may have certain, and I saw the expression on my colleague PS, her accounting field is now at risk. I'm very happy that it will not happen to economists like us, Mr. We still maintain that cutting edge in terms of analyzing, interpreting, and recommending. So we are safe. But I don't want to take too much time, although I just want to share some statistics with you, because, you know, when I got up very early at 3 o'clock this morning, Jim, nothing to put some, get myself ready for that closing remarks. I went and I did a number of things, and I observed that, for instance, in a 2023 Global Consumer Survey, found that for personal use, about 75% of persons for personal use were already using AI. They use it in education, they use it in all. As a matter of fact, I was just sharing with my PS colleague that I use it at work. When I write letters, you know, you have a lot of letters and what have you to write. And sometimes you write certain things and you believe that you're sure that's what you write. But when you go in back and say, oh gosh, I did not write that. So we are now able to use AI to check our reading for us. The only downside I observe in it, and Mr. Lee indicated that to us, is that a lot of the background information that put it together came from the American database. And therefore, even when you ask it to do certain checks for you, you recognize that the English, the correction, is purely based on the American system. And therefore, being the English persons we are, and you know, there's no argument that Saint Lucians are among the best writers in the world. We've our Nobel laureate in literature, so we can boast that. We can boast our achievement. So we're able then to go and make corrections to those kind of information. So that's one of the areas we also have to do. However, the results in terms of the business were mixed. Mixed in the sense that in most businesses with more than 1,000 employees, 42% of those businesses were using AI. However, when it came to businesses of 48 and less than 4% used AI. And that was important to me in the sense that most of our businesses in the Caribbean and in Saint Lucia are small, employing 42 and less. So the question for us now is, how do we assist some of those businesses in integrating the AI technology to assist them to improve their competitiveness and to, you know, work smart and to be more productive. So having said all of that, I don't want to run away with the show because I was told I'm not supposed to give a speech and I only have 5 minutes to do my vote of thanks. So let me get quickly to the vote of thanks. Firstly, I would like to, I forgot I wasn't supposed to give a speech. So I'm going to get back to my task I was supposed to do. So firstly, to you, the ambassador, I want to express our appreciation to you and the government of Taiwan in the support you have provided to not only this workshop, but to the economic development of our country as a whole. And therefore, I wanted to recognize the Minister Hippolyte, you gave us some very good, thoughtful points and things that we could take away during your deliberations. In fact, you encourage the businesses not to be afraid, to adapt to the changes of the new technologies, because it will only assist them in working better and improving their outputs. You also mentioned the indication of IT governance, and that is very important as we move forward. We saw the dangers and what can happen if we allow it to run away. I mean, not that I'm one for regulations. I believe that society should be demand and supply and with minimum regulations as possible. But in certain areas there is need for regulations. More so when you will be asking people to share their nominal data. The question is, what do you do with it after? Do you unauthorize, in a way, use it for marketing purposes? Do you use it to earn money and what have you? So these are areas that we need to look at as we move into the IT era, and to ensure, that we put not too much regulations to restrict its development, but sufficient to ensure that there isn't no unauthorized use of it. So when the call is made to the you said, it will not happen because in my phone I put, if you're not a human, you cannot call me. So that will not happen with me. The minister also spoke of data and the importance of data. And again, we could say to you how important data is. And therefore, with the use of AI, it gives us that competitive edge where we would have to employ a number of mathematical techniques and analysis to analyze data, taking a long time. The AI will do that for us almost immediately. So we must not be afraid to embrace that kind of technology. Moving quickly, I must say our presenter, Mr. Chen, did a lot. He had so much to say that I have almost 2 pages. That I have almost 2 pages of notes I took down, but I will not go through it because it will take us too much time. But I just need to highlight some of the things that he said. For instance, the Gen AI in terms of chat GPT, and I also researched that and found out that almost 200 million persons would use them on a daily basis. So that's to show you how much engagement is taking place. He also spoke to us about the awareness of the AI in terms of the Uber self-drive vehicle, the robot taxi, and a few other areas, which again are very much eye-opening areas for us. Mr. Lee, you also open our eyes in terms of the use of AI in a number of cross-cutting industries throughout. And it was amazing to have seen that AI is now throughout all industries you could think of, from education, manufacturing, accounting, marketing, quality measurements and operations, marketing. So it's really cross-cutting throughout. You also inform us of the various constraints, limitations, and biases and privacy issues. And again, that was very informative. And I would ask that the audience recognize you for your excellent presentation. To our panel, which again, very well put together. And as I look up across the panel, I notice that, we have 2 learned gentlemen here. We started from very good schools. All 3 of us went to Castle's Comprehensive. We went to Keyville. So, we have some very good gentlemen sitting at the table there and very well put together. So again, I also want to raise some salient points which will raise, for instance, Jim, you mentioned, and you don't mind I calling you Jim, we are classmates from young, yeah, so that's okay. And he spoke of, the insight into how the whole AI work. Took us through the process and, the various combination of analogs and how you can use it. And, he said something which caught my eye and my attention, where he said about we can use the AI to improve our profile and wealth creation. At my age, I'm interested in wealth creation. And therefore, that was very instructive to me. Dr. Samuel, again, you made some very good contributions in terms of the regulations and how we can regulate and use AI, although you similar lines of thinking that, not too much regulation, but yes, there is a need for regulations. To our, what's it, Optronics? Optronics. A company that I came familiar with only last year because we provided budgetary support for that company in terms of building on the work in building. We're working with the young persons through the youth agency. We made funding available for them. So I was quite impressed to see the work that you have done, and obviously the funding that the Minister of Finance made available for your company is well spent. And we want to thank her for the contribution she has made. Mr. Lee, again, I cannot thank you anymore. You've done a very great job, both in terms of your previous presentations and you on the panel. Now, you notice I've deliberately not mentioned one person, but I found it was necessary to leave that one person for last. Our moderator, Stanza Deligny. She needs a special round of applause. She did a very good job, and all I can say is to keep it up. You're excellent. So on that note, I'm mindful of the lunch, so I want to say again to our audience, you've not been forgotten. You asked some very good questions and your involvement. So thank you very much, and it was a pleasure being here this week. Thank you.